of the investigators need to be sacked. In fact, some need to be jailed. There's no doubt about that. The investigators cook the thing up at that level and it goes up the line. And the simple way to stop all that is the videoing, the voice recorder, and get it all on the internet. Now, I can't look at every case. I've told you about those couple because they're a bit notorious and there's a bit of information on them. But when I've tried to look up other things, I can't find them. It's too hard. It should be made easy so that anyone that's a bit interested would do it. Now, that would create a new industry. You remember when the South Australian Film Corporation was in its heyday? Well, you got so much material down there in the court files, and if it was all on video, you could make very much better TV productions than we're seeing at the moment. I mean, that'd be real live stuff, and you'd mix in a bit of acting as well to you know, make it all entertaining. But that's another industry. Right, I finished that. To be governor, enough candidates have to say, vote for me and I'll vote for John Robertson to be selected as the governor. So you can be a Liberal, you can be a Labor, you can be a Democrat or an Independent. Doesn't matter. I'm only trying to look for a coalition. I think there should be a coalition. And the policies I put forward are good. They're good policies. They'd get rid of it. Eventually it would get rid of the crime, because once you had a future for the young fellas so that they could feel proud again and attract the girls because they've got a good job and they're doing something exciting. Now, once you get back into that sort of system, the place would be great to live in, and you can do it. It can start straight away. Now, I haven't spoken about the wind power, but to give the employment, you can't just rely on the old folk and the university students and just sort of rolling the money around in the little circle. You've got to have a bit of industry, and the best industry to add to whatever's there would be wind turbines. Look, you've got the geography, there's plenty of space and not many people, and it'll be so easy to pump the water up into the Flinders. You see, the thing that is against wind power is that the wind only blows from time to time. So you've got a lot of electricity, then you've got none when you want it. But you only have to use the wind to pump the water up the hill. And it's just like charging a battery. Think of the hill as your battery and the wind as your generator. So you generate some electricity, shove it up to the battery, which is the dam up in the hill, and when you want your electricity to switch the light on, you hydro it. Now, it's easy, it's not a new idea, they do it, they must be doing it somewhere. But it could be done already with Port Augusta Power Station. You just pump it up in off-peak times. Everybody knows that the biggest trouble with electricity production is to be able to supply enough for the peak loads. And then what do you do with it when you're generating and when nobody wants it? Well, you pump the water up the hill. Now, once there was a real effort put in to do this, the geography is already there. You've got the power station already there, you've got all the transmission lines running out of Port Augusta, and the mountains are there. There's plenty of places where you can put a seawater dam in, and then you let the water run down to Lake Torrens. So you'd have another lake, and then you could turn that into a tourist place and a real estate place and make another boom. And that's not even starting to think of Lake Eyre. There's so much that could be done in South Australia by using wind turbines and hydro, and then, of course, to get into exporting, you'd export your know-how. Someone would have to start working out better turbines. I mean, at the moment, GE seem to be doing the main ones over here, But there's lots of people make turbines, and there could be all sorts of sizes and maybe new inventions. I mean, people have been making windmills for what, how many hundreds of years? So someone could invent better turbines, but it's not just the turbines, it's all the technology. I mean, to pump the water at the right time and then generate the electricity at the right time, someone's got to know how to do it. And so there'd be the equipment that you could develop, and there's a know-how of how to use it. And then added to all that, the most obvious thing is the production of hydrogen. You produce hydrogen from the electricity and the water, and you put it into these hydrogen fuel cells. Now, I can only assume that they'd be something that you could then put in a boat and ship off to somebody. So you could have the whole of the state full of windmills. And I know over here they complain that if you put a wind turbine in a nice area, it spoils the landscape. Well, there's no doubt it does for some people. I mean, some people like wind turbines and some don't. But, I mean, that sort of compromise just has to be reached, and you wouldn't put them in Wilpena Pound or a place like that, but there's plenty of places that you could do it. Now, not only that, it could be that the poor farmer that's been struggling for 30 or 40 or 50 years could really have a wind farm and be serious about it. And it's not to stop him from grazing his animals underneath, but the land's there, the mountains are there, the sea's there, it's all there. And South Australia could be such a booming state, and it would might take a week to get it started, might only take a day. Look, all you have to do is change the tax. As soon as the 1% on every transaction starts going into the Treasury, suddenly the Treasury doesn't know what to do with all its money. It'll have so much money, it'll have to lend some of it back to the banks. And then the banks, of course, will lend it out to all the businesses. Now, my proposal is that the rate should be 1% that the state gets when it lends back to the banks. Forget about all this 10% and 15% and 12% and 8%. 1%. And then they can be lending out to buy homes and run businesses at 3%. Now, once you've got low interest rates for business, anyone that's worth anything as an entrepreneur can make a go of it. If you're an entrepreneur and you could just have a little restaurant, or doesn't matter what you do. If your money's only costing you 3%, there's something wrong with you if you can't make a go of it. So blame yourself, don't go blaming anybody else. But if it's 10%, you're behind the mark before you start. And so, put me in as governor, I see the Treasury straight away and say, right, this is the thing, scrap everything, just put this in. I don't know, it might take me a week to work it out. It's not a big deal. And if you think I'm wrong, you get your universities to do a model on it. The universities could do a model. Look, they've done models on this. When Frank Ford, back in 1990, got in, he went in from, that's in the federal parliament, he went in from the small business area, and a couple of us contested the elections in 1993, and I spoke to Frank, and he told me on the phone from Canberra, he was in Canberra and I was up in Cairns, but he said, yeah, they've done models on this. And I spoke to Reith, and he's the one that called it a cascading tax. And we spoke to, I didn't speak to, I forgot the leader's name now. Well, we spoke to Keating too, but we didn't get very far. But we put a pretty big drive on, and actually I took a court action over it because I was a bit annoyed about a couple of things. And it's recorded, I've got it on my website. What it records is that in 1993 we contested the results of the election, and that was because of some nasty reports. Oh, I might as well tell you as soon as I started. The Cairns Post, which is one of the Murdoch papers, said that we didn't believe in tax. Well, that's quite wrong. Our method collects more tax. But they wrote us off as idiots, because how could any country operate, any government operate, if it's not collecting tax? Of course you have to have tax. And the 1% on every transaction collects more tax. And it's a compulsory saving idea. That's all it is. It's just compulsory saving. And by the government lending its surplus money back to the banks, and then the banks are not stupid. I mean, that's why they're still in business. The banks are careful in their lending out. And even though there's plenty of money flowing around, they would lend to people that could put up mortgages or whatever they do. They'd still be lending in an astute way. So it's just there to be done. Well, I'm getting a bit dry, so I think I might take a break. That might be the end of this. I'll probably tack a philosophy club meeting on the end of this. We did a philosophy club meeting the other month. But for the moment, I'm going to have a cold cup of coffee. Thank you.